Welcome to Geo College Radio. I'm your host, Miles King, joined by my co-host, Jordan Lunderman. How's today treating you, Jordan?
It's treating me well. Happy Halloween to all of our listeners. You won't be listening to this on Halloween, but that's when we're recording it, so you should just be thankful for my well wishes.
Everybody, happy Halloween for everybody on the pod. At this point, it's going to be belated happy Halloween, but we hope you're enjoying it and enjoying it responsibly anyway, or that you did enjoy it responsibly. Now let's go, now that we're done speaking of past events, let's speak of future events, such as this week's upcoming slate of college football games. And let's start out with one in your backyard, Jordan. Florida is visiting Arkansas this weekend. The Gators are ranked in the top 10. It'll be a big game for Brett Bielema and could be a statement win.
Yeah, it could be a statement win. I don't think it will be. I think that Florida's defense, if you look at the stats for both teams, their offenses surprisingly are relatively putting up the same number of yards. But the big difference is their defense is literally 2 times better than our defense. So I think even though it's at home, I think they're going to come to our house and kind of upset, not really upset, but kind of upset based on the spread. I think we'll get a little bit of breathing room because it's at home. But I think that Florida is going to take it to us pretty good in this game if we aren't able to sort out these rushing attacks that are being thrown at us week in and week out. And same thing for LSU next week. But it's going to go one of 2 ways. Either we figure out the rushing game and they aren't able to do anything in the passing game, which we already know that their passing game is nothing special, or it's more of the same, and we continue to show that our rush defense is just not up to par.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with you. I don't see this one being very close at all. Florida's defense just too good. Even with a middling offense, it might be too much for the Hogs, especially if they perform as dismally as they did against Auburn a couple weeks ago. Hopefully they've used the bye to sort out those problems. You never want to see a team get beat like that, especially if it's your team. But I don't see this one being too close. I think Florida is going to win comfortably, just like you said.
Well, I don't think it'll be as bad as the Auburn game by any stretch. I think it'll be relatively close. It may not feel close, but just because of Florida's lack of scoring, I think it'll be relatively close. But I wouldn't be surprised if they win by the low 20s. I also wouldn't be surprised if Arkansas squeaked it out. But again, they're going to have to figure out a lot in this week of preparation before we play the Gators.
Yeah, well, best of luck to the Hogs. Hopefully they can bounce back from that loss a couple weeks ago and come up with a strong performance against the Gators this week. Now moving on to a big game for the Cowboys this weekend. They travel up to Manhattan to face the Fighting Bill Snyder Cats at Bill Snyder Memorial Stadium. And as the old adage goes, you don't just waltz into Bill Snyder Family Stadium and come out with the victory.
I believe it's Bill Snyder Family Stadium, not Bill Snyder Memorial Stadium, since he's still coaching the team.
Oh, did I say Memorial?
But I definitely see a positive outcome for the Cowboys just because they're improving week in and week out. This is a Kansas State team that always comes to play, but they just seem to be outmanned in this game. Too much talent for the Cowboys. They've really been able to recruit in key positions lately. Restocking at running back has been very important. So I think Justice Hill bounces back. He'll get another game over 100 yards, and I think they take care of business at Bill Snyder Family Stadium.
Yes, thank you for correcting me. He is not dead yet. He may be soon.
Let's hope not.
Not yet. Let's hope not. I'm not wishing death upon Bill Snyder.
I think you were subconsciously wishing death upon him.
No, I absolutely was not. All the respect in the world to Bill Snyder. Like you said, his teams are always ready to play, even though there always seems to be a talent gap between them and other Big 12 teams. He does a great job of preparing his team, getting the most out of the talent he has. I'm glad it's not a night game. Night games up in Manhattan can be very tough. This one's like 2:30 kickoff. I think that suits OSU very well. But Kansas State did open as a 4-point favorite in this game for a reason, because they are so tough at home. But I think it's going to be a close one, but I do think the Cowboys will go up, take care of business. Now our next game is a big game in the SEC West. Could be Coach O's chance to stake his claim, maybe as the head coach and not just the interim coach at LSU. As Alabama travels to the Bayou, they're going to take on the Tigers at Death Valley. How do you see this one shaping out, Jordan? Do you think the Tigers have a chance, or is the Tide going to roll over everybody just like they have been?
Well, Miles, normally I would think that LSU would be able to compete in this game, but some defensive back for LSU opened his big mouth and he said that he thought that they would dominate the Crimson Tide. He thought they would dominate this team that has dominated everyone else. The last thing you want to do is give the Crimson Tide bulletin board material as if they need any help. But I'm sure this is going to be a blowout after that quote. Of course, the skill level of the team, or the skill level of Alabama, is the reason I'm picking them. But motivation is very key, and I think that player opening his mouth and saying such idiotic comments is going to be just a little bit more motivation for the Crimson Tide to take it to them and to prove that there's no one in the country even close to their caliber.
Yeah, I'm going to be expecting a little bit tighter game than you're predicting right here. I think while Alabama absolutely should be the favorites, I think it's going to be a closer game than people expect. It's only Alabama's only favored by 8 going into the hostile environment of Tiger Stadium. It's going to be rocking. Those LSU fans can get pretty crazy. But the LSU has national title caliber talent on their team. They have the talent to go win a national title. Now, can Coach O utilize that so quickly in his tenure as head coach? I'm not sure, but I think it's going to be a very close game. Leonard Fournette had a very bad game. He was shut down last year against Alabama. I think he's going to come out like a man possessed and really put the team on his back. I'm not predicting a win for the Tigers, but I think they keep it very close and they make Alabama sweat this one out. Now moving on to more Big Ten football. The Big Ten football that you all know, you all love. This is Nebraska against The Ohio State University. Of course, Nebraska's perfect season ended last week against Wisconsin, but they have a chance to become a giant killer here as they travel to the Horseshoe to play the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I think Nebraska's going to come out with a vengeance. Nobody's believing in them, especially after this loss. They're essentially being discredited. It'll be interesting to see on Tuesday what the College Football Playoff Committee thinks, but I think they're going to come out ready to play, and I think they're going to upset Ohio State. Ohio State really, for the talent level that they have, they've underperformed, especially offensively. Just looking at JT Barrett, he has not been good. I really don't understand all of the hype surrounding him. He's not played well at all. And Tommy Armstrong, on the other hand, has played very well aside from this last week against Wisconsin. So I think Nebraska bounces back and will take it to Ohio State in the shoe, which will essentially eliminate Ohio State from playoff contention.
Wow, taking it to the Buckeyes. That is a bold claim, especially since the Buckeyes favored by 18 in this one. I don't agree with that. I don't think Nebraska's going to win. I think they're certainly a good team. You have to be if you're 7-1 at this point with one overtime loss. But I just think the Buckeyes, too much talent. Urban Meyer too good of a coach. I think all these lackluster performances in the last few weeks will just motivate them. I think they're going to want to make a statement in prime time, and I think they win this one handily. Now, our last game we're going to preview this week is the rivalry between TCU and Baylor. TCU has had a little bit of a down season. They're 4-4 right now, and this could be a huge game if they're going to make it to a bowl or not. If they lose this one, could be much more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Baylor's going to come out and win this game. TCU really, ever since that deflating Arkansas loss, they just haven't bounced back. And especially since in this last game, they ended up pulling Kenny Hill and playing Foster Sawyer. They really are experimenting at this point. I don't think they have the pieces that they need, and I think Baylor will come out with a victory.
Yeah, I think you can't underestimate the fire that runs in a rivalry, but it's certainly looking at it on paper, TCU just doesn't know what their identity is right now. Kenny Hill, he got benched. They threw in Foster Sawyer, who, let's just face it, he's not good enough to be your starting quarterback. Maybe you give him another year to develop, but I don't think he's quite ready to be a starter yet. But Baylor, they've shown they're vulnerable with the loss to Texas. Maybe that'll light a fire under them, but also, if Baylor can't correct things, this could be the beginning of their slide from the top of the Big 12.
Yeah, and like we said in the review, or the first podcast that we did, I think that Baylor's going to drop 3 games this season. I don't think that they're as good as everyone thinks that they are. Obviously, they played one of the easiest non-conference schedules among Power 5 teams by a long shot. And so I really don't think they've been preparing themselves for the slate they're about to have. And really, they got away with one against Oklahoma State, but they still have to play West Virginia and OU, and I think they dropped both of those games. They should have dropped the other game, but I think this won't be the beginning of their slide, but they're going to have to win this if they want to get to any bowl that's slightly meaningful.
Yeah, like you said, they still have to face the Sooners and the Mountaineers, and it doesn't get any easier as they travel to Norman right after this week. And then to end the season, they'll be playing in Morgantown, which is always difficult venue to play at. But I think TCU is going to give them a run for their money. I think Baylor's going to win, but you never know. I'm going to reserve my right to make this pick until later in the week when I've had some time to dwell on it, see if there are any injury news, that sort of thing. Take all the pertinent information and then make a responsible decision about it.
Well, whenever people have done that on this podcast, they're 1-0. So I'll have to hope that I pick the same team as you do after your decision. But Miles, another game I'd like to throw in real quick. You have a Sooners team that's traveling to Iowa State. And while that doesn't seem like it would be a very daunting game for the Sooners in Ames, it is a middle of the week game. So do you see any tomfoolery coming out of this? Wow.
Like you said,
you
said earlier in the
No
podcast, we are this week debuting the upset special portion of the podcast. Wow. And this week, it's the Sooners going down in Ames, Iowa on a Thursday night. Somehow the Cyclones gain magical football powers on Thursday nights at Jack Trice Stadium. They've played all their games they've lost so far this season, or almost all of them, very close, especially in the Big 12. I see this as the week that they finally get one of those victories.
Wow. Miles, that is a very bold pick, but I will say for those of you listening, it's not as far-fetched as it sounds. Looking at their home games, they lost to Northern Iowa, but only by 5 at home. And then you go to their next home game against San Jose State, and they blow them out. They lose to Baylor only by 3 at home, and then to Kansas State only by 5. So, Miles, while I think that you're insane, and this is just an absolutely insane pick, I will give you credit. This you've looked into it a little bit more than most people would and given it some thought. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think that Oklahoma will take care of business, but it could be closer than the experts think. Of course, Ames is always a dangerous place to play on a Thursday night, so very scary for OU, and hopefully they take Iowa State seriously as they prepare. And like you said, we are adding our upsets of the week. I have one. I'm very high on this team. I have Northwestern upsetting the Wisconsin Badgers.
Wisconsin, you've been placed on upset alert. Upset alert. This is not a drill, Wisconsin.
This is not a drill, and let me say, whenever I put a team on upset alert, I am 1-0. So 100% for me. Wisconsin, you better be scared because I do pick my teams carefully, and this is a Northwestern team where the record does not reflect how well they've played this season. And that is similar to Wisconsin in that they've lost to two of the better teams in the country, but they had two early losses, one to an undefeated Western Michigan, I might add, another to Illinois State, which is just horrible, but other than that, they've bounced back, and they've really put together a good-looking season so far, and I think this Northwestern team is a force to be reckoned with, and I think they're going to take it to Wisconsin at home in Evansville.
Wow, taking it to Wisconsin, that is quite the proclamation. But you are right, they had a slow start to the season, but they have picked up quality wins over Iowa, Michigan State, Indiana. They almost pulled off the upset in the shoe last week against Ohio State. They couldn't quite do it. But this is the team that is capable of pulling an upset against someone like Wisconsin if they don't come out prepared to play. And
Miles, I would like to attribute their success not only to their coach, but to their training program from, I believe, 2 years ago, which I'm sure it instilled great character in the Northwestern players, but they had them trained by the Marines, who they came in and showed them obviously a very difficult training regimen. And this is a Northwestern team that, because of that training regimen, they were able to put together some solid wins a couple of years ago and put together a great team. They still have a lot of the leadership that they had on that team, and I think that they're going to put a game together right here at home, and they're going to be able to steal one from Wisconsin, who's coming off of an exciting win and a very emotional win, and that usually isn't good for the team coming off of the emotional win. They usually come out flat. So look for this Northwestern team that's very physical to come out and really perform well against the Wisconsin Badgers.
Yeah, of course, Ryan Field, a tough place to play if that place is filled. Hopefully it will be, because we could have a great atmosphere then. But I like that. I like that pick. Putting the Badgers on upset alert. I think it's a good pick. Not as good as mine, of course, of the Cyclones over OU.
Well,
but,
of course.
We'll see how that goes.
And Miles, I'd like to throw in one more game. Air Force Army. We have to throw in the military matchup. Who you got?
I've got Air Force. Their triple option attack, much too potent for the Black Knights. Air Force is going to take it.
Yeah, Air Force has definitely been up at the top along with Navy in the three-team rivalry, but I think Army's got a really good chance to shock some people. They've played a great season so far, and really they've been flying under the radar. Of course, they are a 5-3 team, and they really don't play a whole lot of great teams, but they're a pretty good team. They're a lot better than they have been in recent years, but I'd have to side with you as well. I think Air Force gets it done again against a better Army team. Not better than Air Force, but better than Army normally is. I think they get it done, and they're able to continue to improve and watch out, because Air Force could get to a pretty influential bowl game.
Yeah, and like you said, Army having a much better season than they normally do. They could even go bowling this year. You never know. They're sitting at 5-3, like you said. If they win this weekend, that gets their ticket to the bowl game, and I'm not sure. When the last time they did go to a bowl game, really.
Yeah, Miles, I believe the last time they went to a bowl game was 2010, and then before that, 1996, if my memory serves me well.
Yeah, so whenever you go 6 years without a bowl game, it's always big for a program to go and get one. So I think Air Force is going to come out on top, but don't be surprised if the Black Knights escape with the victory. And our last thing on the agenda today, we have one listener question coming from Peyton Weiss this week, and she asks, if you could play for one coach in the country, not Mike Gundy or Brett Bielema, who would it be? So I'll let you tackle this one first, Jordan.
Yeah, Peyton, this is a tough question. I think for me, I wouldn't necessarily want the best football coach, but the best man to help shape me and shape my character in ways that other coaches can't.
Bobby Petrino.
So yes, obviously I would go to Louisville. No, that would be the last place I would go. They would have to give me money for the rest of my life, a lot of money for the rest of my life to go there, and I still might not even go. It would take a lot. But I really like Montgomery, the coach of Tulsa. He's really he's got good kids and he's able to recruit good talent. So it's the best of both worlds there. You don't have the sourpuss attitude of a Nick Saban or the sassy attitude of a Harbaugh, and of course not the drunkenness of a Sarkisian. And so I think I would go with a Montgomery. I think he's just a really good man, and I wouldn't be surprised if he got picked up at one of those major universities based on the job he's done these past 2 years at TU.
Solid pick. I think personally I'd have to go with Bill Snyder at Kansas State.
Another great pick.
Yeah, a great pick, if I do say so myself, praising my own selection. But he's Bill Snyder, renowned for his solidness as a man and a great developer of men in that program. He always focuses on developing the person just as he does the player, and I think you see his players really play hard for him. They respect that, and I think while they aren't necessarily the best program in the country, they're consistently good. Bill Snyder, fantastic coach.
Even better man.
I would go with Bill Snyder. Yeah, even better man.
And, I mean, look at what happened to that program whenever he left. Yeah, it absolutely disintegrated, and he had to come back. So he really cares about that program and about every single kid in that program. I think that's a great pick. I might have to change mine to that. But for the sake of us having two coaches listed, I'll keep mine as Montgomery.
All right, that wraps up this week of Joe College Radio. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We hope you enjoy this weekend of college football. Be sure if you have any questions over the weekend, anything that made you scratch your head or wonder, what do Jordan and Miles think about this? Be sure to send in a listener question before Monday night. We usually start recording around 6 or 7. But we appreciate you listening. Be sure to spread the word as always, and have a good night.